Before we get into the video, I want to apologize for how long this video is because I just went into a lot of detail. So if you just want to kind of take the deck list, that's fine, I guess. But I encourage you to watch the video, at least for the most part, to get some information on how the deck is played. I was planning on doing replays for the video, and I'm going to make that a separate video because it's way too long. So I hope you enjoyed the deck list. Hello YouTube, and welcome to my Dogmatica, or Invoked Dogmatika Shaddoll deck profile. So I made a video, it was a very low effort video that I uploaded. It was just a replay against Bird Up, which is Lyrillist Tri Brigade, and got a couple requests for a deck list. So here it is, a little bit modified. So I added Max C here, because Max C is just great. You activate it, your opponent basically can't special summon, and if they do, they just give you all the outs you could possibly need to get rid of all the special summons that they have. And I'm just trying to basically increase the UR. So get rid of Max C. I also had one Wendy, and we had Book of Moon. So this was my deck list for the video, and right now I'm running Psyframe Gear Gamma because it's a great hand trap to help you resolve your Magical Meltdown, and also especially your one Nadir Servant. If you're activating Nadir Servant right off the bat, it's a good bet that your opponent is going to Ash Blossom that if they have it, because it locks you out of your extra deck. So basically, if you're activating this, they know you have no other plays. And if they Ash Blossom this, since it's not a cost to send from extra deck to graveyard, you will not gain that effect. So, yes, it's kind of unfortunate we only have two, but it is still a great card to have for resolving those cards, getting your searches through, especially Terraforming. You don't want to get stuck with the Droll and Lockbird on Terraforming. That will hurt pretty bad, because then you won't be able to search with Alistair or your Magical Meltdown. So, that's pretty rough. So, two Psyframe Gear Gamma and the obligatory driver, which ends up becoming great discard fodder for Makaba and your App Cologne when it gets sent to the graveyard if you want to keep your Schism. We have one Hedgehog because we're playing basically one of all the good Shaddolls. I don't like this organization, I wish we could change it. But yeah, one Hedgehog to search for your spell or trap when it's flipped, and also you can just send it to the graveyard to search for essentially a monster negate for Makaba again. Two Ash Blossom Joy Spring, just great hand trap. Considering three, it is a hard once per turn, but I mean, it just negates everything good in this game. One Wendy, so when this gets sent to the graveyard by card effect, it will be able to special summon a Shaddoll in face down defense position, which is pretty much the main thing you're going to do with it. Even if it gets flipped, you're probably going to want to special summon your Shaddoll in face down defense position instead of face up, because you're not going for any link plays. You want them to flip to gain their effects. Squamata, his main purpose is to get sent to the graveyard by card effect and send a different Shaddoll. So if you have him in hand, you can send him, or you can even send Shaddoll just to send another Shaddoll to stock up for your Schism. Dragon, probably the most cuttable of them all, but you can send him to the graveyard to pop a spell or trap, which comes in handy for sure. And if it gets flipped, you can target a card your opponent controls, return it to the hand, which is okay. It's come up in, it's come in handy like once when I bricked super hard, and all I had was Dragon, but the pop spell or trap when it gets sent to the graveyard by card effects, amazing. Obviously, 3 Alistair the Invoker, your one card combo into a negate with Makaba. Just, Alistair's disgusting, because especially Invocation recycles back, and just keep reusing him. One Aerial, you send this to graveyard by card effect, you'll be able to banish 3 cards from either graveyard, typically going to be your opponent's, so you can banish their combo pieces. So let's say you're going against PK, any graveyard effects that they might have, get rid of them. Anything that your opponent wants to maybe special summon in the future, get rid of it. Just get rid of it. Get rid of it all. And when it's flipped, it can special summon a Banish Shaddoll, which isn't really relevant in this version. It's more relevant with regular Shaddolls and just pure Invoke Shaddoll. Three Ecclesia because we only have one Nadir servant. I figured we might as well go three so we can get max or full combo as easily as possible since we only have that one Nadir. One Shadow Beast. You'll see me in a couple of these replays. I will special summon this in defense off of Wendy to dig into my deck a little deeper and get that draw two, discard one, and that discard one is also an effect. See, this is a comma, so that's part of the effect, and that means it will trigger your Shaddolls because it's not the cost. Dogmatica Shaddoll, the Knighted. You'll be able to search this basically mostly off your Titanclad, the Ash Dragon, and you can special summon him with a quick effect. And since his target does not, or since his negate does not target, you can negate something in the middle of a chain link. So let's say they activate like chain link 3 or something, monster effect to destroy one of your like your Shaddoll Schism, and you don't want it to get popped, so you can special summon Dogmatica Flurgylist on Chainlink 4, and then it'll prompt you to negate something, and you can just negate it. And then Chainlink 3, it will be negated. For some reason, I cannot get this part down. This is going to take so much editing. We have Dogmatica Maximus. This is going to be special summoned by banishing an extra deck monster from your graveyard, which is typically going to be Salamangreat Almirage. And then Dogmatica Maximus is going to ban it or send 2 cards from your extra deck to the graveyard, and also your opponent. You get to choose your cards, they get to choose their cards. So watch out in a mirror match because they can send their Natis. But this will send your App Cologne the trigger. This will send your Titanclad to be able to search for typically Flurgylist, maybe even a follow up with Dogmatica Ecclesia. But this, especially in some of my replays, you'll see has gotten me through some disruption where I won't be able to search my invocation, but I can still make Shaddoll plays and lock them out of special summoning with Shaddoll Schism. Next on the list, Terraforming is going to search your Magical Meltdown. Simple as that. Just make sure you don't get Droll and Lockbirded. That's where Cypher Gamma comes in. So Shaddoll Fusion can get Ash Blossomed even if you're not sending materials from your main deck to the graveyard because it just says that it can do it, which I find kind of annoying, but that's just the way the ruling is. So you're probably going to want to use that first, which will be able to free up your Alistair the Invoker and bait some negates. Invocation at 2, you really don't need 3, it gets bricky at 3. And it's just highly searchable. You have Magical Meltdown to search your Alistair, you just have Terraforming to search Magical Meltdown, and just Alistair searches it. I'm running 2 Lightning Storm. I'm thinking about changing this. It has come in handy as a blowout card, but if you make a combo, you can't use it. The good thing is, Makaba, if you already have Makaba on the field, since you can't use Lightning Storm, at least you can discard it to negate a spell effect. Nadir Servant, forced to play 1. If this ever, somehow, it's not going to happen, comes back to 2 or 3, increase it immediately. It's just a great card. Card's overpowered. Reason being, you activate Nadir Servant, you can send Natis, which pops a card on your opponent's field. And you can send App Cologne, which can search any Shaddoll card and discard 1 card to trigger a Shaddoll card and gain any of their effects. So it's quite overpowered because then it searches a Dogmatica like Ecclesia, which can search Maximus to send more monsters from the extra deck to the graveyard to trigger their effects. And it's 1 card. It does way too much. Magical Meltdown at 2. We're forced at 2. This would be at 3 otherwise because you want to see Alistair almost every single game. And I forgot to mention, Magical Meltdown, another thing that this does is it protects your fusion effects from getting negated. And then when you fusion summon a monster, your opponent cannot activate card effects in response to the fusion summon. And since Shaddolls have a lot of summon trigger effects, it is still in that chain window where it is the summon. So the summon happened, the trigger effects happen, and your opponent cannot respond because of that technically the summon started that chain link. And then chain link 1 will be construct, chain link 2 will be the monsters that you used. And they can't respond to either of those. So if you send dragon, you can pop without response. 3 Book of Moon. This is just an R choice. It's very easy to craft. If you have a bunch of R credits, I do not, but I just have to dismantle some. I can actually, if you click up here, dismantle all extra cards. We're gonna dismantle them. We don't need them. So we have now a little bit more R point, or yeah, R points. So Book of Moon, very easy to craft. It's an R. You can check how to obtain it. Just Master Pack. So just it's an R. Craft it. It's super easy. Forbidden Chalice. This is actually something you're going to dig for. This is, I did not. Deceitful Wings of Darkness is Dark Lords, but it also has Forbidden Droplet. Forbidden Droplet is one of the best power spell cards in the game. Highly suggest digging into that pack to grab it, and Chalice, because Chalice, easy to get, great effect. It's really nice to actually be able to set these, and it protects your Schism, because if your opponent has back row removal like MST, it's free in this game. If you pick the Synchro starter deck, you get 3 MST to start. They might hit one of these instead of your Schism. Next, 2 Call by the Grave. Another card combined with your Gamma that's going to want to resolve your searches. So if you use Terraforming, Magical Meltdown, Alistair Invoker, you're going to Call by the Grave any Droll Knockbirds or Ash Blossoms, maybe even Effect Veilers, or you can't do anything about Infinite Impermanence, RIP, unless you play Crossout Designator. I might make a list with that eventually. So it helps get your searches through, helps you combo off through Disruption. It's a staple. Definitely pick up 2 Call by the Grave. I'm actually so happy that it's at 2 in this because I'm used to 1 for TCG. It's great. I love it. Dogmatica Punishment. This is a one of and also another cuttable card. At worst case scenario, this is a trap negate from Akaba. To the last one, Shaddoll Schism. We all love this card. So we're going to search this typically off of Apcalone. It's also very nice to just open it right away. The one thing that sucks opening it right away is you might not be able to get Shaddolls in your graveyard as easily because this deck does not really focus on having a lot of Shaddolls. And Shaddoll Schism is going to banish Shaddolls, well, actually fusion materials from your field or graveyard to fusion summon a Shaddoll monster during the main phase. So that's going to get you a window on your opponent's turn. You can chain it to a summon effect, and they will summon that monster, and Winda will already be on the field, and that will be their only special summon. But it also, Schism, if you fusion summon a monster that has the same attribute as a monster your opponent controls, you can just send it to the graveyard. So this works for things that are untargetable and cannot be destroyed by card effects, such as Chaos Max Dragon and Red Eyes Dark Dragoon, which is not in the game. So we're gonna go into the extra deck now. I'm actually just gonna go in organized fashion. I don't like this organization. We're gonna start with El Shaddoll Construct. What Construct does on summon, sends a Shaddoll card from deck to graveyard. When it battles, at the start of the damage step, you can destroy a special summon monster. So moving on from Construct, we're gonna go into Winda. This is really your biggest boss monster. So Winda is going to make it so each player can only special summon once while it's on the field in a turn. So you summon this during your opponent's turn, and you don't really have to worry about any more special summons. If you do, you still have 1, and they have 1, so the user 1 special summon can't really do much about it since combo is the meta, unless they disrupt it. That's why you got all kinds of other disruption to your disposal. And Winda will lock them out. Winda's disgusting. When it gets sent to the graveyard as well, it's going to add a Shaddoll spell or trap in your graveyard to your hand. Same as Construct as well. I forgot to mention that about Construct. You can also special summon to your extra monster zone and link off with Gravity Controller, so you have no problem with the restriction yourself. Or you can just use it as a fusion summon for Schism. You can banish it. Because if you banish this with Schism, before it's not on the field when the summon happens, so it can't restrict you. Moving on to El Shaddoll Apcalone. This is a great card to summon. But I mean, it's typically going to be sent off of Nadir Servant or Dogmatica Maximus. This searches your Schism and then can discard a card after that because it searches any Shaddoll card and then you discard it when sent to the graveyard. It's different in construct and window. So El Shaddoll at Cologne is going to essentially get you your Schism super easily because of your Dogmatica effects. You could also send off a punishment. That's typically what I'm going to send, unless I need an extra pop with Elder Entity Natis, which we'll get to in a second. But Cologne also can't be destroyed by battle, so it's great if they have no other outs to that. You can put it in defense mode. They can ram into it all they want and do nothing. So Cologne is, I mean, it's good to summon, but it's hard to summon because we only have one Wendy, one Aerial, so we have wind, water, and the rest is dark. So it's a little rough to summon this, but mainly you're going to send it off of your Dogmatica effects. Moving on to the Invoked package. Invoked Macabre, I mean, thank goodness it's an SR. It's easy to craft. It's also very easy to summon. All you need is Alistair the Invoker and these two Link monsters right here. You can even use a Magistus the Moon Maiden. But the reason why I don't use Magistus the Moon Maiden and I use Almirage and Secure Gardena is because you want the Almirage to be able to banish to special summon Maximus. If you're not playing Maximus, you can definitely cut these two, add Magistus the Moon Maiden, and have an extra spot for something else. Just discard one card to negate your opponent's card of the same type. So, if it's a spell card, you gotta discard a spell. If it's a monster, you gotta discard monster. And it will destroy it and then banish it. So it destroys it from hand, it destroys it from field, and then banishes it. If the effect is in the graveyard, since it is not destroyed, it just stays in the graveyard. Invoke Purgatrio, he does piercing damage, gains 200 attack for each card your opponent controls, and you can attack each monster once, so this is just a big power move that you can make off of Almirage if you didn't use your Maximus or you have your Ash Blossom Joy Spring. My throat is so dry. I need to finish this. Sorry, but this I have used a couple times to push lethal. There's not many hand traps like Karibo, Sphere Karibo, and Master Duel like Duel Links, so I'm very confident with pushing with my Purgatrio. Next, we'll go with Invoked Algoides. Don't know how to say that. I say Algoides. It is what it is, but when it's special summon, it triggers itself to pop a card your opponent controls, and also when your opponent special summons a monster, it triggers to pop a card your opponent controls, or a monster your opponent controls. And it does that once per turn, and then another thing it can do is it banishes a fusion monster from your graveyard and gains its attack. So this is also another great card to push for lethal. If your opponent has a bunch of monsters, you're probably going to want to use Purgatrio, mow over them in defense mode, especially Book of Moon comes in handy with that. And Invoked Algoides is going to push when they have a more empty board, because you can break it apart a little more, and swing for, 4,500. Moving on to Invoked Rajin. I really liked Invoked Rajin, so it is with an Alistair Invoker and a Wind monster, which is your Wendy, and I've actually made a play with this in one of my replays. So Invoked Rajin is a Book of Moon on legs. This is going to flip a card your opponent controls face down. Quick effect, and it really helps. So you can't flip links because they can only be in attack position, but you can flip cards that you know are going to go into a link summon before they go into the link. Moving on from Invoked Rajin, I guess we are going to go to Natis and Titaniclad, the Ash Dragon. So their only purpose, Nadir Servant, Maximus, Dogmatica Punishment. You're going to send them. So Natis, when it's sent to the graveyard by card effect, will pop a card. So you can send Dogmatica Punishment, can essentially pop 2 cards. Titaniclad the Ash Dragon, when sent to the graveyard, it's very sad this is end phase. You can search a Dogmatica monster and either special summon it or add it to your hand, and you're typically going to want to search Flirtyless and add it to your hand. So if there's an extra deck monster and you control a Dogmatica monster, you can special summon it and get that quick effect negate. If not, then you're going to special summon your Ecclesia from your deck, which is going to then search Flirgulus. Finally, the last three links in the deck. We're going to go over Secure Gardna and Salamangreat Almirage. Salamangreat Almirage is the first thing you're going to want to summon. It's one normal monster with 1000 or less attack, Alistair the Invoker. So you normal summon Alistair the Invoker, you link it off to Almirage, and then since you have a Cyberse Link monster, you make Secure Gardna. And then you can't use this as link material, but you can use it as fusion material, Invoked Dogmatika. It's a light. If you want to make Purgatrio, then you have Salamangreat Almirage. And then for Dogmatica Maximus' sake, you made the Secure Gardna, so now your Salamangreat Almirage is in the graveyard, and you can banish it, summon Maximus. It all comes together. There's so much energy with these three different archetypes for no reason at all, and I love it. Finally, Gravity Controller. I'm so glad I can go get some water after this, and then I will record the replays and kind of go over commentary of my thought process. Gravity Controller. You special summon one of your fusion monsters and the extra monster zone. And then you're going to link that off and gain its effects. So you make Construct, it sends Schism to the graveyard, you link it to Gravity Controller, and you grab your Schism back. Otherwise, you might want to make App Cologne there and link it off. You're going to search Schism from your deck, discard a card, maybe gain the effect of a Shaddoll you discarded. I hope you enjoyed the deck list. We're going to get into some replays, and I hope you enjoyed them as well. So, I'm going to go get some water. Bye. No, Ubisoft.